Hi, it's Melissa from Special Ed Law Mom, and I am doing a series of videos that I'm anxious to do for you. They are personal to me because they involve my child and transition failures that happened recently. And I needed to wait to let all of this play out before I could bring everything to you. So this will be a multi-part series because there's a lot of information, so hopefully you'll watch everything. This is part one, and we'll just get going. So my daughter graduated from high school in May. She was forced to graduate prematurely, which if you watch these videos, you'll understand why I say that. Anything that I tell you in these videos can be supported through documentation in this binder. So there is nothing I am making up. I have everything. I have over 150 exhibits that went to the state of Utah in two state complaints. And that same amount, as well as additional exhibits, are sitting at the Office of Civil Rights waiting for a complaint to be investigated. So believe me when I tell you, I'm not making this up. So let's just start at the very beginning. I always, whenever I say that phrase, I sing The Sound of Music. But my daughter graduated in May, which meant she started high school in the 2019-2020 school year. And in Utah, if I remember correctly, they do not push transition services until they are 16 years old. So her freshman year, when we had her IEP meeting, there may have been mention of transition, but there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue that went on. Um, and in March of that year, she actually got really sick, and then COVID hit. And so she did not return back to in person learning until her junior year. So we didn't talk about it much her freshman year and her freshman IEP. Her sophomore year, which was 20 and 21, she was attending an online program at a neighboring school district, a Jordan school district. I'll just say that. And she was attending there. And they had an IEP meeting for her in March of 21. And I was on the radar because I had been complaining about the COVID learning. And so there were some people that were, I was on their radar. And so the special ed director was at our IEP meeting. And I actually have the meeting minutes. This is a copy of them that Jordan School District gave me at that meeting. And at that point, my daughter was going to be or was already 16. I haven't done the math on it. But there was a higher focus on transition because IDEA requires such. So this was my first meeting ever really talking about transition. We didn't really talk about it with my oldest. My oldest was on track with an honors diploma and different things, and it just didn't happen. But with this child, she has different disabilities, learning disabilities, a traumatic brain injury. And so there was more of an emphasis on needing to have that dialogue. So in these meeting minutes, which were provided by Jordan School District, I must have been looking confused or something and I was, because they kept telling me that outside agencies could help us. And so at one point, the director of special education it cites her in the notes as saying, the point of the transition plan is to help identify outside agencies to help with transition. Get this. The district can help with contact information, but the parent and student need to apply to outside agencies. What does that tell you? It tells me they're providing nothing. They're just telling me who to call. And then another person at Jordan District said, Utah Parent Center is a good source since you have a parent advocate. And then they gave the name of someone that can also help navigate the outside agencies. And then our Utah Parent Center representative that was there with us said the Utah Parent Center can help Mrs. Wallace with transition services available to parents and students in the community. So they wrote an IEP in March of 21 that says she needs transition help. She needs help with life skills. She needs all of these things. At the same time, there's no services in that IEP for her because the director of special ed is saying in these meeting minutes that they don't provide it. All they do is connect us with community resources. That's a total violation of IDEA that I now know, but I did not know at the time. Okay. So I've got an IEP that says this kid needs help, but no services in it, and get those from the community, straight from the director of special ed. Thank you so much. So that was her sophomore year. So her junior year, she goes back to in person learning, and she actually switches to a different high school in our boundary school district. And as IDEA requires, they have to accept her IEP from the previous district that has no services for transition in it, but lists that she needs help. The school that she attends for her junior and senior year when she transfers there has to honor that IEP or rewrite it if they don't believe that the needs are there. Well, they didn't do that. They accepted her IEP, took her, we signed her up, we ask, she needs help with life skills. What can you do to help her? And we are told the state of Utah has canceled these adult roles and responsibility classes. She should just take home ec. And here's a checklist of things that you can work with her on at home, mom. That's what we were told when we asked about life skills, which is part of transition. And if you aren't familiar with IDEA, IDEA, I'll try to put the citation below in the description, but it actually talks about transition and how it needs to be a coordinated set of activities to address post high and various things, including independent living. Okay, so here's a checklist to work on at home, mom, or we don't offer that, or just take a cooking class that isn't even including any specially designed instruction because it's not a special ed class, doesn't meet that requirement. Again, I did not know because, thank you, Jordan District, told me, misinformed me that the schools don't do anything. They just connect you with community resources. Okay, so I have a bunch of notes because there's a lot to go over. Um, so here we are. We go through her junior year, and we have our next IEP meeting in March of 22. And my daughter has just had a hospitalization for some mental health issues. I have had a year of health issues in the hospital 5 times with heart condition and other issues. And so we go into a March IEP meeting, and there isn't really much that goes on. We go through some general progress, um, but really nothing major. And we don't really discuss transition, and they leave the part of the IEP exactly the same as it was, which says that my daughter needs transition help and life skills help, but there's no services. And I don't know any better. Do I need to drive home the point again? Because Jordan School District told me there's nothing that's provided. Okay, so we get into her senior year and we're asking again. We're sending emails her the end of her junior year. We're asking again her senior year. Look, she's graduating. We really need life skills help. And again, take home ec. Here's a checklist. We don't offer that. Nothing offered, despite the fact we have since learned they have classes that do that. They have organizations that come in and teach those skills, but nothing was offered. So my daughter is receives services through a state waiver program, and we got a new caseworker that helps us with that. And she was asking what the plans were because she knew it was my daughter's senior year. And I explained, well, she's going to graduate and we're going to just take it as it comes. And she said, why isn't she going to a post high program? And what are they doing to help her with transition? And I said, well, she's too high functioning. And, we've just always been told that she wouldn't qualify for those things and they don't have anything for the higher functioning kids. Well, she started a hornet's nest. And at first I wondered if and Melanie, I love you. You've been awesome. But at first I wondered if she just liked to stir the pot a little bit. Um, but I quickly learned that she was on to something. And so I began writing the school and asking them for an IEP meeting because we have life skills issues and we need to address them in an IEP meeting. And I got the runaround. Her IEP wasn't due until March. I think this was end of October. I kind of got the runaround of why do we need an IEP meeting? And as they have typically done in the past, they find out who I work well with or who I seem to have a positive relationship with, and they throw that person into the lion's den to contact me and try to diffuse a situation. So they did that with someone at the school that we just really have respected and enjoyed working with. And that person called me and tried to explain to me that, our daughter wouldn't qualify for post high and post high was for the more severe kids. And I said, look, we need help. And that may be the program that you have, but that doesn't mean that my daughter doesn't need help. And they asked if she knew how to use a microwave, which was kind of an odd question. And I said yes. And they said, well, then she won't qualify because, we work for days, if not weeks, on teaching the post high kids just how to use a microwave. That didn't seem right to me because IDEA is not a cookie cutter program, it's an individual education plan. And so a kid knows how to use a microwave. Do they know how to manage money? Do they know how to use the train? Do they know how to clean a house? Do they know how to do basic life skills? And so I tried to leave things positive with that person, letting them know that I didn't agree. And I continued my correspondence to the school asking for an IEP meeting. And the special ed teacher at this school, who would be the one in charge of the file and whatnot, really tried to postpone that. And I got several emails saying we would be discussing X, Y, and Z. And I got an email saying we would not be discussing post high and transition, which ties in completely to IDEA and meaningful parental participation and parents as partners in the IEP process and equal team members. And I have just as much of a right to call an IEP meeting as they do. And so when I got the notice that we were not going to discuss transition or post high, I went to the special ed director and the superintendent. I think I went to the superintendent. I'm almost positive I went to the special ed director and said, not okay. And this will happen. We are allowed to ask for this. And we were finally granted a meeting in December. So, this is part one of multiple parts. Stay tuned because there's more stories to tell and it just gets more interesting. And hopefully, you can learn something and not have to suffer like we did. So, I will see you in the next one. Thanks.